You ever get that weird feeling when you're shopping online? That little voice in your head that says, the price you're seeing, it feels a little too personal? Like if you just cleared your cookies or maybe used a different laptop, you might get a better deal? You know, for a long time, I honestly thought it was just me being paranoid. But then I saw something that made me realize it is very, very real. And I decided to spend a whole week just investigating it myself. So let's get into it.
Right, so this is what started it all for me. An investigator from SF Gate found that by doing one simple thing, just changing their computer's IP address to a different location, the price for the exact same hotel room for the exact same night dropped by over $500. I mean, think about that. Not a different room, not a different day, the exact same booking. I just had to know if this was a one-off thing, a fluke, or something bigger.
So this became the question that I just couldn't get out of my head. How is this even possible? How can a digital price tag change so dramatically just based on who is looking at it, and maybe where they're looking from? Well, as I found out, this isn't a glitch. It's not a bug in the system. It's a feature. And it's a deliberate and, frankly, a pretty brilliant business strategy.
And it actually has a name, surveillance pricing. This is the engine that's running quietly under the hood of so much of the e-commerce we use every single day. It's basically the practice of using your personal data, your digital footprint, to calculate the absolute maximum price they think you're willing to pay and then charging you exactly that. Okay, so before I could even start my own experiments, I really needed to understand what I was looking for. And the most important thing to get your head around is the huge difference between the kind of pricing we're all sort of used to and this new kind of invisible model.
Okay, so let's break this down because it's really key. We've all seen dynamic pricing. It's why an Uber costs more when it's raining or flights get crazy expensive around the holidays. That's all about broad market forces, right? Supply and demand. But surveillance pricing, that's a whole different animal. It's not about the market, it's about you, your location, your purchase history, even the kind of phone you're using. The goal isn't to find a fair market price, it's to find your personal breaking point.
And listen, this isn't some conspiracy theory I cooked up. It's so common that lawmakers are actually scrambling to define it and regulate it. This definition, which is inspired by proposed legislation, puts it in black and white, customizing a price based on data collected about you. It's basically legalized algorithmic price discrimination, and it's happening at a scale we've just never seen before. So that leads to the big question, right? How do they get all this information? To figure out how to even test this system, I first had to understand what kind of data points they use to build this digital profile that determines every price you see. Well, it turns out we're often helping them do it. A recent study found that 65% of us are totally willing to hand over our personal data in exchange for what they call personalized value. Discounts, special offers, that kind of thing. It's this bargain, this trade-off that we make almost every day that really opens the floodgates.
And this chart right here, this is basically their playbook. This is the blueprint for how they build a profile on you. And it's so much more than just your name. It's technological, like that famous case where Mac users were shown more expensive hotels. It's micro-behavioral, and this is the creepy part. They can literally analyze how fast you move your mouse to figure out how urgent you are. They use your phone's GPS, your purchase history, your social media likes, all of it to build a complete psychographic model. Every little piece of data is a tool in their toolbox to perfectly predict your personal price ceiling.
Okay, so armed with all this knowledge, I started my 7-day experiment. I really wanted to see if I could catch these pricing algorithms in the act. I decided to try and replicate some of the most well-documented examples myself to see if it was really true.
I started with travel and tech. So you might have heard about that famous Wall Street Journal report that found Orbitz was steering Mac users towards pricier hotels. I tried booking the same flight on a Mac and a PC, literally side by side. And while the base fares were pretty similar, the recommended add-ons and the hotel packages, they were consistently higher on the Mac. Then I remembered that ProPublica investigation into Princeton Review's zip code-based pricing, so I used a VPN to check prices from different neighborhoods. The differences were small, but they were definitely there.
But honestly, the most shocking results I found came from retail. So there are these reports of Target's app showing way higher prices when you're physically inside the store. I went to my local Target, stood in an aisle, and looked up a vacuum. Then I just walked outside to the parking lot and refreshed the page. And I'm not kidding, the price dropped by over $30, just like that. I saw the same kind of thing with Lowe's. Using a VPN, the price of a fridge was almost $50 cheaper when my IP address was in Los Angeles versus my actual location. It's real, and it's happening all over the place.
All right, so after seeing all of this with my own eyes, I knew I couldn't just go back to shopping like I used to.
It's pretty unsettling. But here's the good news. You are not powerless here. Once you actually understand the game, you can start to fight back. So let's talk about how you can reclaim a little bit of control.
From everything I've learned, it really boils down to 3 core strategies that I use now. First, you have to become a price historian. You just can't trust that the price you see today is the real price. Second, you've got to actively try to obscure your digital footprint. And third, you have to develop a really deep skepticism for any deal that says it's personalized just for you.
So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, for my first rule, I use browser extensions like Keepa to see an item's entire price history on Amazon. It's a game changer. For the second rule, I now use a VPN to mask my location, especially for big purchases like flights or hotels. For the third, I'm super wary of loyalty programs now. They're really just data collection machines disguised as discount cards. And my number one tactic? Before I buy anything important, I check the price on my laptop, my phone, and in an incognito window. And finally, just talk about it. Share your own experiences. The more of us that know this is happening, the harder it is for companies to get away with it. You know, ultimately, the goal of all of this is to push back toward a transparent market. It's about demanding that the price we pay is based on the actual value of a product or a service, not on some invasive, kind of creepy algorithmic calculation of our own personal desperation.
Which really leaves us with this final massive question to think about. After a week of seeing prices shift and change right in front of my eyes, I really have to wonder, in a world of total price personalization, where no 2 people ever see the same number, what does a fair price even mean? And is that a concept that we're actually at risk of losing for good?